and welcome to Out and About Art, your PGTV source for all things art in Polk County. I'm your host, Yasmin Ali. This month, we're taking a look at some special events that were held recently at the Polk County History Center in Bartow. The History Center features different shows, volunteer opportunities, and educational programs throughout the year, and last month, I was able to catch a stage reading of a piece written by local playwright Gretchen Suarez-Pena. Conversations in Bed, the last event of the History Center's Race and Culture Lecture Series, follows four couples and the universal and comical conversations they have before going to sleep. I got the chance to catch up with Gretchen to learn about her writing process and find out why she thinks it's important to highlight diversity throughout her work. Let's take a look.
The Polk County History Center reached out to me because they were doing conversations about race, and so they were intrigued by the fact that I had done a piece called Conversations in Bed and Conversations in the Car. And they invited me to come and talk with them, and so I told them that, Conversations in Bed has multi-ethnic characters, and that would probably fit in really well with Conversations about Race. So we decided that at the end of the lecture series, we would kind of do the stage reading and then let it be part of that lecture series. So I'm super thankful that the Polk County History Center invited me, and I hope that it's the beginning of a beautiful friendship. There's lots of great things in history and that they're doing, and hopefully I can get involved again at a later time. So Conversations in Bed is four different couples having conversations before they go to sleep. And the idea came about, I was newly married, and my husband and I would just have these funny conversations. We were sleepy and about to go to sleep, and we would just have these funny conversations, mostly about food, before we went to sleep. And I thought, I'm pretty sure other couples talk before they go to sleep. I remember hearing my parents talking and laughing. That's kind of where the idea came from, and I found that was kind of a universal topic, people having conversations before they go to sleep. So the four couples are different races. My oldest couple is a white couple. My 40s couple is a black couple. My couple in their 30s is a Hispanic couple, and then my youngest couple is a millennial couple, and they're one of them is half Iraqi and half Samoan, and the other one is half Korean and half Dominican. And the reason I did that was a little bit to show how America has kind of changed, with the demographics. And also because I had a lot of friends that were actors that were multi-ethnic and felt like they weren't being represented on stage. So I wanted to create characters that, could represent more people. And things are changing. I have a lot of friends that, their parents are from two completely different countries. Their mom is from Poland and their dad is from India. I wanted to represent the fact that, things are changing. And so that was important to me to kind of give voice to those characters.
Marcos, move over! Your body is making a dip in the bed and I keep leaning towards you. Can't get comfortable.
That's just the bed telling you need to come closer so we can cuddle, Mamacita.
No, that is the bed telling you that you need to get to the gym, gordito.
So I've always loved storytelling. So one of the things that I love about storytelling is just giving voice to characters that are haven't been heard before. So I really just got into it because I love storytelling. And theater is a different way of telling a story. Theater traditionally, at least in American musical theater or American theater, we see a lot of the same characters kind of over and over again. And so I think there's been a lot of awareness to bring voices, new voices to the stage. And so to me, it's important as a female, as a woman of color, I'm Hispanic, to bring those voices to the theater. And so I think that as time progresses, it's going to be even more important to show representation of all kinds on stage.
It's so awkward going to the Korean club.
Why? You're Korean.
And Dominican. Most people think I'm Puerto Rican or Egyptian. My boss thought I was Greek. The Korean lady at the club kept staring at me like I was a purple unicorn.
It's just the perks of being multiracial.
So I am an engineer. I'm a drainage engineer. So some people think, engineering, that's really strict and confined and, not really creative. But engineers have to be creative. They have to be problem solvers. It's a little bit different creativity than being a playwright and doing theater. I actually joke and I say that I approach engineering like an artist because I sometimes like to not follow all the rules, but and I approach theater like a playwright. I'm very structured with how I write and the timelines of how I write. So it's really, it is different, but I think people who are engineers can understand that you really have to have an element of creativity to be an engineer. Yeah, it's a lot of number crunching, but yeah, I like to think of myself as a multi-hyphenate. So I like to do lots of different things. And at this time, it's engineering and theater. So I was born in Puerto Rico. And then I moved to Lakeland. Well, my parents moved me. We moved to Lakeland when I was about 18 months old. So I was raised in Polk County. I went to Bartow schools. We lived in South Lakeland, so I was zoned for Bartow, so I went to Bartow schools. So not born, but definitely raised in Polk County. I was involved in community theater when I was in high school and college. I went to school in Tampa, then moved around the country and came back because my husband's in the military. The arts is really important in Polk County. I think that we have a very talented group of people in Polk County. The talent in Polk County is very high. I think part of that is because we're so close to places like Disney or Tampa that have a very strong art scene. But we have great community theaters like Lakeland Community Theater and Theater Winter Haven and Lake Wales Little Theater. And I know like the city of Mulberry is really trying to lift up its arts. And here in Bartow, the Orpheum Theater is kind of trying to get up and running. And we've got the Edge Theater Company here that's done a lot of great things. So I hope that as time continues, the arts in Polk County will get even stronger. I don't know that people realize how much economic good it does for the communities. It's really a strong economic force, and I think that if more of Polk County embraces that, they'll find that it will pay dividends, not only economically, but also just culturally. Kids that are involved in the arts are more likely to do better on tests, they're more likely to be, have better self-esteem, do better academically, be more successful in the future. So hopefully Polk County will see even more rise in the arts, because it is a powerful force. Plus we've got really talented people who've come from Polk County. Tony Award-winning Karen Olivo was from Bartow in Polk County. She went to Harrison. Urel, I can't pronounce his last name, but he's on Broadway right now. So yeah, we've got some talented people here and who've gone on to do some really awesome things. So hopefully that only means bigger things for Polk County. When somebody comes to a Gretchen Suarez-Pena production, what I most hope is that they see themselves reflected on stage. There are a lot of voices out there. I can't write them all, but in Conversations in Bed, I had a lot of multi-ethnic voices. In Conversations in the Car, I had an LGBTQ voice. I had a pastor. I had an older character. I want the common just person out there, not necessarily somebody who's an actor or an artist, but the everyday person to go to the theater and see themselves reflected on stage, to get to hear a story that they can relate to and understand. So that's my biggest goal, is to tell stories that need to be told and to tell stories that people can relate to. I know so many people who are artists, who are actors or performers or painters or playwrights. And I think motivation is one of those things that really has to come from within. Not everyone is gonna like what you do, but someone will, and you'll be able to relate to someone. So I would say to anybody who wants to get started in their art form is just start, just do it. Just put that first piece of art out there, and just get feedback and learn from it and grow and just keep going and don't stop. I didn't do it for a really long time because I thought I wasn't, good enough, or thought I, wasn't gonna get any kind of, but people weren't gonna like it. But in reality, you just gotta try. You just gotta try and keep going and don't stop. And if it's got, the motivation's got to come from within you. You got to really love and have passion for the art form, because that's where the creativity is going to come from. It's going to come from you. So that's my biggest piece of advice. I'm still learning, I'm still growing, but I'm hoping that, like I said, that the arts in Polk County will continue to grow.
If you'd like to learn more about Gretchen Suarez-Pena and support her work, you can follow her on Facebook by searching for Plays by Gretchen. You can also visit her website at www.gretchensuarezpena.com. Next up is our monthly Artist Spotlight. Emily Griest is an art teacher at Lake Region High School who's passionate about not only creating art, but appreciating its history as well. While attending Florida Southern College, she learned how to merge her love of abstract art and underwater scenes into a unique, one-of-a-kind style of painting. Here's a look at the artwork of Emily Griest.
I'm Emily Griest. I am a high school art teacher and a painter. I mostly focus on underwater work because I like the way that the water is able to abstract things and kind of mess with this idea of realistic abstraction. And I think that's a lot of fun. And so my work really focuses on water and the abstractions and the kind of design elements that that can create. I feel so comfortable in the water. I feel very serene in the water, and I feel like I can get a lot of my best work done if I'm just kind of in a quiet area where there's not a lot of distraction going on, and in the water, it's silent. And I feel like I'm able to really make decisions in the water and just feel more connected to the work I'm doing for some reason. I feel like there's not as much going on around me where I can really just focus on the task at hand. I discovered underwater painting when I was in high school. It's actually kind of a ridiculous story. I didn't want to deal with drawing my hair because it's really unique, and everybody else in my high school art class had this straight hair that was going to be really easy. I was like, you know what if I took a photograph underwater and drew from that? So my hair would be like crazy and it would be a lot of fun to draw. And so I did that, and it was this beautiful self-portrait. Well, now I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I ever drew like that. But it was a really nice piece for that age. And I just remember loving the idea of how everything would float underwater, and how everything kind of had this ethereal quality to it. And I just loved being in the water. I was a competitive swimmer for 13 years. I feel the most comfortable in the water. I always tell my students I'm not a land creature. And I also still coach the swim team, so water's been a major part of my life for a very long time. So it felt natural for it to seep into my art. And I was doing the underwater people for a while, and then I started to learn about, my sophomore year in college, I think I started to learn about contemporary art movements like abstract expressionism and minimalism and things like that. And I particularly learned about Clyfford Still and loved the way that he had these really geometric forms, and I wasn't putting two and two together until my professor was like, hey, you have this really nice abstraction going on in your paintings, but you're putting these people in it. What if you just took the people out? It's like, oh, wait a second, we're onto something here. So that's how I ended up with the big, full abstract pieces. They're a lot of fun to create, I gotta say. I get to put these models in all these clothes and brightly colored, super brightly colored clothing. I have all my scuba gear, because that's all neons. And I have them float kind of just below the surface of water. And then I take my underwater camera and actually shoot up, so I don't shoot the person at all. I'm shooting up, so I'm getting all of that reflection on the underside of the surface of water. And that's the basis of the forms in my paintings. The nice thing about abstracts is everybody kind of leaves it up to their own interpretation. It's where you really get rid of subjects, and it's where you're just focusing on the paint on the canvas. And although mine has a subject, it's very hard to discern. So you're looking at it, could it be something? Is it a person? What is going on here? Because in actuality, they're portraits. They're portraits of someone dressed up really crazy underwater. But it's just so far abstracted that all you see is color and form and shape, which is where it gets fun. I don't have a super deep meaning behind these. I pick my colors by things that, I pick the names for the pieces by things that the colors kind of remind me of, but I want people to be able to keep finding new things in them. Almost like when you look at shapes in the clouds and you're like, oh, that's a person, that's a lizard, that's a ship. I want people to be able to keep coming back to them and finding new things to look at, finding new shapes, thinking, oh, I wonder if, this may look like a mask, but when I pair it with this thing, it may look like a bunny rabbit. And I think the kind of new discovery of different forms and different shapes within the pieces is what I really want people to take away from the work. I wish I had more time to paint. Like, if I had my choice, I would be able to come home and paint like for hours and hours, but I have a very demanding job. Sometimes teaching 180 high schoolers makes you want to go to sleep as soon as you get in the door. But yeah, I think the most challenging part is making time and sticking to it, because painting's something I love more than anything else in the world. My high school students, they completely renew my love of art every day. They're fantastic, especially my AP and my upper level art kids. God, they have such a passion for it that, like, as you grow up, people don't have as much passion for things as teenagers do. And just seeing that love of art all over again makes me love it all over again and keeps me in love with it. I may be a little biased, but I think art's one of the most important things someone can learn, because it boosts your critical thinking skills, it boosts your problem solving. Those are just basic skills that everyone needs. And then it boosts your hand-eye coordination, and if you can appreciate art, you start to really understand the joy of the world around you, because you understand the aesthetics behind everything. You start to understand why things are placed the way they are. You understand maybe why someone's taking all of this time to put these flowers in a nice arrangement. And then you notice the colors of them. And you notice, hey, they put this blue flower next to this orange flower because they're complementary colors. And, oh no, I feel like life would be empty without art. I can't picture a world where it didn't exist. It's just so important. And I wish it was taken more seriously. People don't even realize or stop to think of how much artists actually do for a community. I know plenty of people that did the tapestries in downtown. They're lovely, they're fantastic. Also, when you support a local artist, you're a lot of times supporting the dreams of young students below that. Because I know we do many shows in the park for my art kids. They love it. They love it. And they love getting people to look at their work. And they love it when people are amazed by their work. And I mean, people move places for the art culture. I refused to live without, I refused when I moved to Lakeland. I was like, I will live within walking distance of an art museum. That was a must. So, I mean, arts and culture bring people that, you know, want to get involved in their community, and bring people that make things prettier, at the very least. Yeah, supporting the arts has to be one of the most important things to, well, obviously to me, but to people around. People like pretty things. And artists bring that.
If you'd like to keep up with the artwork of Emily Griest, you can follow her on Instagram by searching for emilyk.griest.art. Last but not least, we're heading back to the History Center to learn about nature photography from Jeff Spence, the former director of Polk County's Parks and Natural Resources Division. Jeff and his wife Lynette have spent years traveling around the globe taking pictures of natural landscapes and wildlife. Last month, I got the chance to attend a class he taught at the History Center to share tips about basic photography skills and some examples of photos from his worldly adventures. Let's take a look.
A couple things I want to mention to you first is, one, I'm not a professional photographer. So I've not had any professional training in photography. Photography is my hobby and something I love to do. Second thing, people a lot of times think about when you do nature photography, you got to be a great outdoors person. Now, my degrees were in biology, but I'll tell you, there was a reason that I spent 35 years as an administrator, because I'm not safe outdoors sometimes. So, you don't have to be a Bear Grylls or even a Hawaiian yoga instructor that can go out and live 2 weeks in the jungle to be an outdoor photographer. You know, so I would hope to encourage you in those areas. I was very fortunate to grow up traveling around the world. My father was in the military, so I was born in Africa and lived in Japan and Germany and a half a dozen states. And this world's just a beautiful place. And so from as long as I can remember, we had cameras around the house, and wherever we would go, we would take a camera with us and take pictures. I married a woman who loves to travel and who also loves nature and wildlife and photography. So we've traveled extensively during our marriage, and we've been to our top place obviously was Africa. That just was phenomenal. The wildlife there was just, you can't describe it, you have to see that. But we've been to other places such as New Zealand, we've been across Europe, Ireland, Central America, South America, and to all of our states and several places in Canada. So we've really traveled extensively around the world. Africa, we say, is the best, but everyone is unique and everyone is really special. And by taking these pictures, we have memories of every place we've been. When we go on a trip, they are expensive, so you have to plan. And so we started planning 6 to 12 months in advance. And I try to read whatever I can about the place we're going to. I want to look at what the wildlife is. I want to know what other photographers have taken pictures of there. I want to learn a little bit about the culture. And so I start reading and studying and planning for that trip. And that is really the key thing to I think, nature photography, landscape, and wildlife is to learn about the place you're going to before you get there. So when you get there, there's always surprises. You always find new things, but you're prepared for a lot of these things, and you really can come away with much better photographs. Being a biologist obviously helps. I'm aware of the ecosystems. I have a good idea where I'm going to find an animal, where's going to be the best place to look for those, what time of day they might be out there. Some of them are nocturnal, so going out in the middle of the day to try to take a picture is not going to help you, and the chances are if it's strictly a nocturnal animal, you may not get a picture of it. So, because I don't use flash when I do that, because my goal here is not to impact nature at all, if at all possible. So having that biological background really sets the stage of what we're looking for, but it's not necessary. These things that I've learned over time, you can read about, you can learn about. And if you go to places like Circle B, there's hundreds of photographers that go there, and so many of them are willing to share what they know. We have a phenomenal nature discovery center there that has biologists in it that also, and volunteers that are extremely knowledgeable, and they can help you. A lot of photography, especially your landscape photography, and also with wildlife, a lot of your critters, your wildlife are really most active early in the morning and then late in the evening. So you don't show up with if you think the sunrise is going to be at 6:30, well, I'm going to show up at 7, well, you've missed it. So you have to actually maybe be there a half hour in advance. You need to be prepared. You need to figure out what your picture is going to be taken if it's going to be a landscape photo. So when that perfect light hits, you're ready for it because it's not going to wait. That golden hour in the morning, that may be fleeting. It may be actually not an hour, it may be 5 or 10 minutes when you have that perfect light. And so you need to be ready for that. So preparation is really key. When I talk to people that are interested in photography, my initial statement is don't get hung up on the technical aspects. Get out there and enjoy it. And that's one of the things that I get carried away. I get so involved in trying to get that perfect picture that sometimes I miss something that is really fantastic. And so I sometimes have to slow down and just soak in the nature. So initially it's just to get out there and practice. And then as you become a little bit more knowledgeable about your camera, you can learn about the f-stops and the aperture and the speed that you may need. And should I use a polarizing filter or not? Should I process this? I mean, very rarely can you take a picture out of the camera and say, oh, it's perfect. If you want that perfect picture, you're going to, have to do your research. You're going to have to be out there at the right time. You're going to have to take it with the right settings. And then you probably will go back into, put it on your computer and crop it and adjust the lighting a little bit to make it that perfect photo. I still consider myself an amateur photographer, but it's just basically practice. Going out there and doing it. There's nothing that beats going out into the field and taking pictures. I complement that with reading what I can. There are several magazines that deal with photography, outdoor photography. There's just dozens and dozens of YouTube videos on every camera make that's out there that tells you how to work them and how to do landscape photography and wildlife photography. And I just read and watch whatever I can. I love to share my photos, but I'll just tell you that my favorite part is being there It's just being out there. I mean, there's studies that have been done, numerous studies that have been done that say that, being out in nature is good for your health, your mental health, your physical health, but just going out there and enjoying that, it relaxes me. And you can just, especially if you're by the ocean or by a lake or out there by yourself. And that's what I really actually like. First thing in the morning is my favorite time. Circle B gets over 300,000 visitors a year. But if you're out there at 6 o'clock in the morning, you may see 1 or 2 people the whole time. And so you have that whole place by yourself, and it's magical. Don't worry so much about the camera and lens you have. You'll find out that most of the modern cameras will take a good picture. The expense usually is buying that good lens. But don't worry about that. Go out there and enjoy it and learn the process of photography. And as you develop those skills, if it's something you enjoy, then you can look to upgrade. And you don't always have to have brand new. You don't have to have the latest mirrorless camera out there. There's plenty out there that will do the job, and you can get a good product from it. We are unbelievably blessed in Polk County. We have Circle B, which is internationally known. It's not only for the wildlife, but for the beautiful landscapes. You can really do a lot there. But we have some 26,000 acres. Circle B is only 1,260 acres in size. We have 25,000 other acres that the county manages that you can get out and hike and take pictures on. In addition to that, we have 2 state parks, Cold Creek State Park and Kissimmee State Park. We have other natural lands, and on top of that, we have 550 beautiful lakes. So we have all these options. Lakeland Highland Scrub is one of my favorites. Gator Creek's another one. Gator Creek's a little hard to photograph because it's wooded, but it's a challenge, but it's still fun. And then within an hour and a half, you can be on either beach. So we've got all sorts of places all over Central Florida. This is not something that I want to do just by myself. I want to encourage other people to go out there and do this. And I mentioned this during the talk, is that, you're not going to fight to protect something if you don't love it, and you're not going to love something if you don't know it. So if you go out and take photographs, and you share those photographs with your friends, and they see how beautiful the world really is and how amazing the wildlife we have is, then they're going to join you to efforts to protect those areas.
For more information on upcoming events and programming at the Polk County History Center, visit www.polk-county.net/history-center. Well, that's all I have for this month, but there's always plenty going on within the Polk County art scene. Stay tuned for a list of art events in your area. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time for more art out and about.